back to the next episode of the First and 35 podcast. I'm your host, Gus Cousins, although you can barely call me that at this point. Sitting way too close to me across the table is my co-host, Ben Jordan, and our administrator, who handles most of the tech stuff on this podcast, decided to skip town on us this weekend. So he's not here. We've been suffering over the last, half an hour or so.
I would say half an hour.
Trying to get, multiple mics working because there's two of us and we actually have 3 mics, so you think it would be easy, but it's not at all. So what we ended up doing is we have one very small microphone, it just equally in between us on a table, and so we're both just splitting one microphone today. So we'll see how that turns out. But honestly, at this point, I'd be amazed if we can get through this one without any more glitches or errors or files deleting or any of that. Yeah, because this has just been unbearable so far, and it's so far beyond our realm of knowledge that we've been trying and
It's the guess and check method.
Exactly. And usually I'd be okay with that, except for GarageBand. It's just a brutal way to try things. So anyways, as the world's shutting down and the sports world is pretty much non-existent at this point, I think we're actually going to do another podcast today. What's it on? I don't really know. But, I guess we'll give it a shot until the microphone breaks or we both run out of things to talk about. Yes, there's not even a real point of, diddling around with facts.
Done.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Not
outside of curling.
Sure until when.
No idea. Probably for a month at least. But
yeah,
as everyone knows at this point, everyone everywhere has suspended or canceled or moved dates, league-wise, all around the world. In North America, it happened really quickly here, obviously.
Within 24 hours, 36 hours?
24 hours, right? Because the NBA set off a chain reaction of events or Rudy Gobert, I should say, did set off a chain reaction of events, and now we're stuck with no sports for at least, I would say, a month, probably more.
And, all schools in our area are shut down until April 6th, I believe.
Yeah.
And
oh my goodness, I have no idea. I'm trying to live without sports. I mean, strictly from an entertainment point of view.
Yeah.
I wonder how many times I'm gonna go and just watch that Bautista home run bat flip game because there's an HD.
Right?
I don't know, but there's an HD full 3-hour one on YouTube. That's great, and I've watched a little bit of it, and it's I'm just gonna go waste my life watching stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be bad, I don't think, if Sportsnet or somebody's we have all the time off, let's just get, they don't even have to be well-known games, but if you just want to throw in, a Blue Jays 4-game series sweep versus the Yankees in 2008, right? Because, something with guys nobody knows.
I saw Tim and Sid are doing, on one of their upcoming things, they're doing the Jays-Rangers Bautista bat flip game from the 7th inning on.
Oh, they did that yesterday.
Oh, that was yesterday?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see a date on that.
One day gone, and we've already gone through, every sports show in Canada has probably already gone through the Bautista bat flip. But
Next
anyways.
up will be the Kawhi Leonard.
It'll be the Kawhi thing.
Bouncy
It'll be the Raptors. You could throw in the FC, right? Go back to when they won the MLS Cup recently. You can, I don't know, you're playing Leafs games, but only the ones where they win in the playoffs. Not just leave out all the Boston Game 7s.
All of them.
Every single one. But yeah, so it was nuts. It was a crazy 24 hours. Everything's shut down now pretty much indefinitely. Yeah, it's just been so nuts.
As you guys know, we weren't supposed to be here today.
Yes, that was actually another point I completely forgot to mention. Yes.
Of traveling to the U.S.
Yeah, we should be in Florida right now, but no, apparently not. Here's actually one upside from this whole Gong show, and I mean this whole global Gong show. We were supposed to go to Florida, as we said, and, relax, see the sights, go to some Jays games, go to a hockey game. Obviously, we're in Toronto, so we are not doing that right now.
Yeah, well, no one's doing that right now.
Yes, and of course with that comes well, we're not going to be talking to Anthony Bass, who we said we would be and who agreed to and seemed into it. And oh, we won't be talking to Jordan Romano in person, who seemed into it and said he'd want to do it. But the one piece of silver lining, I would say, is that Romano did agree to do a phone call-in interview at some point in the future. So hopefully when the administrator gets back, because imagine us trying to connect like a speakerphone to this goddamn computer.
He'd be gone in 5 minutes.
Be a nightmare. It'd be a complete nightmare. We'd have we wouldn't be able to hear him. He wouldn't be able to speak. We wouldn't be able to record. So lo and behold, this entire not even a broadcast because we're not broadcasting anything. This podcast, which is barely that even, is just a gong show when the administrator isn't here. So hopefully he's back next week and we can go back to a little bit of normalcy. But yeah, so we'll talk about the coronavirus and all that. That's probably mainly the only thing, really. The NFL actually had, in the middle of all this, because their season isn't going right now, they're still, running through the off season as if it was totally normal. Guys are getting franchise tagged, guys are getting released, guys are getting traded. Cuts are coming. The draft is upcoming too. So that's really the one league that actually has a little bit of news. And along with that, we'll just run through some of that because it's honest to God, really the only legitimate sports news we have on this podcast today. So just to run through, in no particular order, because I should point out this is the first podcast we've done where I haven't created little news packs for everyone to look through and see oh, this is happening in this league, this is happening in that league. Just because we all kind of knew going into this that, it's really the coronavirus and whatever else comes along. So just to run through a couple things that may or may not be of some interest to people. Bunch of releases in the NFL. The Vikings release Linval Joseph, defensive tackle. He's been with the Vikings for 6 seasons. He's only 31. He had more years remaining on his deal, but like most of these, as you'll come to see, it was more of a cap money crunch issue. Obviously, I would say all of these guys probably are going to find decent jobs next year and probably decently paying jobs.
Just teams with more money and so on. And
yeah,
like that.
And the NFL is always like that every year. The Titans released the longtime tight end Delaney Walker. He's been there for many, many years now. 7 full seasons with the team. He's 35. I would say if he wants to keep playing, he'll probably pick up another deal somewhere else.
Yeah, probably like a 1-year thing.
1 year, maybe 2 years. But he's still a good player. He hasn't aged poorly at all, I would say. He was productive with the Titans last year on their magical playoff run. But hopefully, I would say he gets a job somewhere else because I think he can still play. The Vikings also released cornerback Xavier Rhodes after 7 seasons. He was another long-time Minnesota Viking. He was one of the better cornerbacks in 2016, 2017, and a little bit of 2018, but then for most of 18, he just fell off completely. And then, he just never got it back in 19. So they released him. He'll, I think, get picked up somewhere else just because of his track record of being so good for so many years outside of the 18, 19 years. He's 29. He'll be 30 by the time the next season rolls around. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he got picked up either. A couple franchise tags. The Broncos franchise tagged safety Justin Simmons. Had a couple really good years with the team. He's 26 now, and they want to keep him for a while. The Chargers franchise tag tight end Hunter Henry. That was kind of an interesting one just because he was injured for so much of the previous few seasons. But when he was healthy, he was very, very productive, and he had a really good 2019. And now they're probably going to work out a longer-term deal when the time comes. But tentatively speaking, they franchise tag him. The Ravens franchise tagged linebacker Matthew Judon. This is more of a tentative, tagging because they're looking to trade him right now anyways. So this is more of an intermediate step in moving him out of Baltimore. He was a Pro Bowler in 2019. He's still only 27. He put up some really good numbers Ravens are interested in looking to move him. That's probably another kind of money issue as opposed to saying we don't like
Yeah.
this player. The Titans released a longtime linebacker Cameron Wake. That was kind of a weird one because he was played so many years with the Dolphins. He was so good for so long. Last year was his first year outside of Miami in forever. And he just was a sub-in, really, on the Titans' defense. And he didn't play a whole lot, didn't put up great numbers. He is 38, so that would probably be the one guy if you're looking at maybe his career's done, might be him. But I would say he's still productive enough that you could get him on a cheaper deal on a team that needs, a sub-in on defense every once in a while, because he's certainly not one of the worst players out there. The Packers released tight end Jimmy Graham after 2 seasons with the team. He's 33 now. Everyone kind of knew it was coming because his time was up in Green Bay. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. Put up decent numbers in 2019, but far below any of his productive years. He's obviously still going to be around in the NFL because he's only 33.
Well-known.
Yeah, well-known guy. It's the name pays, right? A lot of these guys, whether you like it or not, the name pays.
No, exactly.
So he'll be around, I would imagine. The Dolphins released safety Rashad Jones after 10 seasons. He's 32. He was a lifelong Miami Dolphin. That was kind of an interesting one just because nobody really expected them to release, and they thought maybe they would. But on, a very, very young and rebuilding Miami Dolphins team, that they want some veteran pieces, especially on defense there. And Rashad Jones has put up great numbers over his decade with the team. But injuries, again, kind of lit him up, and so he'll be out of Miami. He'll definitely get a job somewhere else, though. The Jets released cornerback Tremaine Johnson. That just was a terrible deal. Didn't work with the team. He's 30. He was given a long-term, lots of money deal 2 years ago. Didn't work in New York at all. I imagine he would get another shot somewhere else as well, just because, he had a couple good seasons. But he got benched, he got injured, things like that. So that was a tough one for him. The Bills actually signed somebody. So amidst all these releases, all these cuts and all that, the Bills signed cornerback Josh Norman, who was recently released by the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, I saw that.
To a 1-year, $6 million deal. He's 32 now. He's going to reunite with Sean McDermott, who was his defensive coordinator for all his years in Carolina. He's really underwhelmed everybody the last couple of years, but they're looking to bring him back to form, and it's a cheap deal for the Bills, and they're looking to build on a rather lackadaisical defense. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, one retiring as I'm looking through my notes here. Baltimore Ravens offensive guard Marshall Yanda is retiring after 13 seasons.
He was a Pro Bowler
allegedly.
2019, right?
Yes, he was. His 8th Pro Bowl was in 2019, so he's had a nice long career. One of the best guys out there. He was one of the big pieces. When Joe Flacco was in his prime in Baltimore. And yeah, he's been one of the better offensive linemen over the last decade or more, I would say. But yeah, so if this is allegedly it for him, great career for him. He's made a ton of money, obviously, and he's played on some really good teams with Flacco and with the Ravens. And outside of that, it's just everything's being canceled or postponed, as we've said.
Yep.
So, unfortunately for us and the administrator, even though he's not here, baseball was really, I don't know if that was definitely not the latest one, but out of the 4 major, North American sports leagues,
it
was really
sort of the last one standing.
Yeah, it was sort of, and I'm excluding the NFL just because, they're not in season, they don't have to worry about it right now. But the NBA was the first one. They got the ball rolling, quickly followed by the NHL for a variety of obvious reasons. MLS canceled recently, and then I think MLB was saying, can we get away with playing some spring training games? But really, what's the point? It's practice. It's exhibition.
No, exactly. That's
so
right.
They made a good decision, I think, in canceling, the spring training and part of the regular season, or bumping it back at least.
Well, I think right now it's delayed 2 weeks, right?
At the minimum.
What it's standing at?
At the minimum. It'll probably be more than that just because of, I guess for all sports, like baseball, hockey, basketball, not so much. But for those two, you can't just say, okay, we're playing tomorrow. get in the
Yeah.
arena. You have to pitchers in spring training.
Yeah,
they're
no,
building
exactly.
up. Guys are getting
you build
ready.
up innings and you build up strength.
Yes, you
Yeah.
go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 innings, then you get ready to go. With this, a lot of time off and the inability to practice with a team anywhere, it's going to be tough for people to build up their strength to get where they want to be
Yeah,
before
because
the
for
season
baseball,
starts.
time off is almost worse than overworking, right?
Yes, because pitchers get into
Yeah.
a rhythm and then they know what they're doing and they deal with it that way, as opposed to, I guess some positional players. Like DHs, right? Like Nelson Cruz, I'm sure doesn't actually have to have.
Yeah, no,
a
I'm
whole
sure
lot
he
of
could
time.
just keep working in the cage and be ready to go.
Yeah, and I'm sure all these guys have personal cages or whatever, and they can kind of do stuff
Yeah.
on their own, but it's still not the same as working with
yeah.
the team. But yes, they were the most recent ones. I mean, I think it was a good decision to do it. I think it
all
had
of
to
them
be
were
done.
the right decisions.
The NHL too, though, because it was getting right down to the wire with the playoff races and all that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they deal with that.
They need to, if they restart it, and that's a big if, they'll need time to get back in shape and get ready and get going with their teams again as well. I know they've said that they're going to be handing out the Stanley Cup at some point for this season. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I just don't see it because the feasibility of it,
I'll
right?
believe it when I see it.
Yes, exactly. Like you have to find.
Like it's not impossible.
No, it's not. But it would have to be a creative way of doing the playoff picture.
Yeah.
It would have to be creative because you're looking at outside of the fact that these guys are going to need time to come back and get ready and get in game shape. Arenas need to be, open. People need to show up. The revenue is going to be a major, major loss for so many of these teams, even once the season starts, coming back. And, it's just going to be tough to schedule everything because NBA works with the NHL.
They share arenas.
They
right?
share
and
arenas.
Like concerts and all that.
Concerts, performances. You have to deal with college basketball, March Madness. There's another one that's just straight up canceled.
Yep.
A couple NHL ones too in Michigan I saw that were canceled. Like it's every league really works with every other league, and with the delayed time off such as this, it's going to be tough to get everybody back together on the same page and come up with
and quickly
and come up with an ultimate schedule that'll work for everyone. That'll be the toughest thing, I think. And yeah, I mean, it was so sudden. It was so quick. There were so many things happening, really starting Wednesday night, I think. It was nuts. All these games started getting postponed, like, soccer games overseas, like, Manchester, Arsenal, all those stuff like that. Then, teams start exploring, are we going to play with empty crowds, like nobody's going to show up?
Yep.
Then games start getting canceled.
Well, then the whole Rudy Gobert thing
came
out.
The Oklahoma, all that big situation. There was the one referee, I think, in the other game, in the Pelicans game, I want to say. And it started getting worse and worse. And there's a laundry list of things that happened that I'm not going to go through because it's just far too many. But, it all happened so suddenly on that Wednesday. And now we're here on the Saturday, and the entire landscape of really North America and the world, but especially in the sports world, has changed so much.
Yeah.
Forgetting the entertainment factor. People like us have nothing to talk about. Like, thank God we're not very good and we just do this for fun.
But people getting paid.
Yes, freelance reporters, freelance journalists, people like that, people who work in the industry, sports writers, reporters, stuff like that. It's just, there's going to be nothing. So you have to come up with creative ways to fill the gap and to find content for these things, which is why, hopefully anyways, we will be able to get Jordan Romano on a call, because that would be an extremely interesting conversation, I think, to have with him about, all this, what's going on, how he's handling it, but then also the baseball side of things, right? Coming from Canada, you're working his way up and all that.
Yep.
So hopefully that happens, but if anybody has any ideas, as everyone keeps saying now, throw them out there. Now's your time. There's nothing going on in the world. If something hits, it hits.
Your idea is gonna have to be really bad for somebody to start shutting you out.
Almost as bad as ours to make this. But anyways, if you have any content out there, you may as well try, because now's blank slate. No one's ahead of anyone else right now because there's nothing to do at all except sit here and wonder when when it's gonna come back and all that. And we keep mentioning Rudy Gobert's name because he was unfortunately, excuse me, really the guy who started the whole NBA thing once he tested positive.
Yeah, well,
And
I think without Rudy Gobert testing positive right now, that they'd be playing empty
yeah,
arena
I think
games.
they'd still be going. I think if
Yeah.
if it didn't come out and it just turned out like, you know what, he's ill, and then just leave it at that and don't tell anybody, don't tell the fans, don't tell the public. I imagine there would be still just closed door games going on.
Yeah.
But
And
it
like
happens.
across multiple sports too, not
Yeah.
just in the NBA.
Like, I have a feeling spring training would still be going on. I feel like if Rudy Gobert didn't come out, we'd probably be still in Florida. Or not even still in Florida. We would be in Florida. We never got to Florida. We never got out of my house. But anyways, yeah, so then there was that. There was the whole Donovan Mitchell thing.
Which, I mean, it's not surprising. Rudy Gobert was bound to spread to somebody.
Yeah, exactly. You got to take it into
Right?
account that, it spreads so quickly and so easily. The Raptors got tested, right? Yesterday, I think. And I don't think
they
anybody...
all came back negative.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, needless to say, it's every negative you get is great. I mean, we're up here dealing with, our prime minister putting himself in quarantine and isolation, and his wife testing positive, dealing with that. And by all accounts, it's going well. He doesn't have any symptoms, and she feels perfect, like normal. So, I mean, there's that.
Which is part of the thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
you could have the virus and not feel any symptoms, which would honestly probably be a good way to go. If everyone ends up with it at some point,
well,
no symptoms, right? Like,
yeah,
that's the way to go.
I guess it's one way to look at it. Just the whole world becomes infected, but nobody shows symptoms.
No,
yeah.
I mean, some people are going to show symptoms.
Yeah.
Some people won't.
Yes.
So you're on the good side of things if you're not showing symptoms.
Yes, and obviously we're ignorant about most things because, or not ignorant, but we're biased, I guess, because, we've been told, oh, people our age, don't really, even if you get it, you'll be like mildly infected or feel the effects at best, or at worst, I should say. And, outside of that, I think everyone just needs to, get through it. And I know that's easy to say, but like when you go to the grocery store and there's a line of 25 people stretching down an aisle, and all of them have absurd amounts of toilet paper. Like, I don't claim to be a disaster genius or specialist, but at a certain point, if you need that much toilet paper in that short a span of time, you should be going to the doctor anyways and figuring it out, because that's nuts. What are you going to do? The world goes to hell, you're going to start eating toilet paper? I get the basic idea. I do. I understand that, you want to stock up, you don't want to run out of toilet paper.
Sure.
But when you see guys with carts and carts and carts packed to the brim with toilet paper, it begs the question, how much do you need to wipe? And it's just nuts to me. I'm like, that's the only thing I can think of. I don't think about the virus. I don't think of, well, there's none left for anybody else, which is another side to the story, right? You buy so much, you run out, and it can't be refilled. But if you need that much, you should be isolating yourself anyways. You should be quarantining yourself permanently until you can deal with the situation. That is the amount you need. Like, it's nuts to me. But anyways, everyone just needs to, I think, relax a little bit. Being cautious
but also
is
be
good.
cautious, right? Like,
Being protective is good. Being cautious is good.
If you live with your grandparents or something like that,
yeah, exactly.
situations like that where you're around sort of older people, like, be cognizant.
Yeah, and you got to be careful of what's going on and all that. But the thing with this is, especially with no sports now, because sports are such a big part of everybody's life, is news networks are going to be watched so much more closely now, I would say.
Yep.
Not that they weren't before, but they're going to be more so now. So now you're going to have a bunch of, I don't know if you want to say angry, upset, anxious, confused people that are just sitting in front of the TV watching, especially in the U.S., Fox News all day, and you're getting filled with, opinions and facts that probably aren't even true. And then the other half are sitting there watching things, on the opposite end of the spectrum, like CNN, where you are getting news, but that news is non-stop. It's nothing to do with anything else other than coronavirus.
Yeah.
So it's like both ends of the spectrum. And, I mean, then you're going to cause Like the New York National Guard was called in. What was it, yesterday or 2 days ago or something? Like that's, I know, just supposed to be. It's not even a keep the order sort of thing. It's like they just need help, and we're gonna go help them. With dealing with stuff being transferred wherever, equipment and all that. But the minute you see a bunch of soldiers walking around a majorly populated area holding machine guns, I don't care how many people tell you nothing's wrong. It's out of the norm. It's something's wrong. I'm not saying I think that's a bad idea what they're doing. I'm just saying you have to be aware that some people are going to look at the situation and overreact to a point that they shouldn't
or just
be.
start coming up with things that are completely not it.
Yeah, and then you have to deal with all those people. But I don't know. The thing I think is everybody just needs to take a step back, act a little bit calmer. Don't completely forget and not care about it, but be aware, but don't overextend your thinking ability about it. Everyone needs a break from it every once in a while, no matter what anybody says.
Yeah, no, there's a good medium between not preparing and over preparing.
Yes, people who are loading up their underground secret bunkers with toilet paper and canned beans need to maybe chill out a little bit. The couple in Vancouver who was accused of making $100,000 of reselling Lysol and Purell and all that. Joke. They should be reported to the Canada Revenue Agency and probably put in jail.
Between those people and other people who say, "Oh, I'm going to go do everything the same that I normally did and take no precautions." Right?
Yeah, it's like
you're not going to touch every single pole in the TTC.
Yeah,
like maybe you would have.
Yeah, and in that case, it's like, well, it's just a straight up dick move to do that sort of thing, and probably illegal. It should be if it's not, because you're just abusing.
I doubt it's illegal.
No, I doubt it is, but you see what I mean, right? There's
it's the same thing as ticket scalping, essentially.
I know, but in this case, it's a health risk, right? It's buying out stores filled with all the needed essentials to try and stay healthy and stay clean. So I mean, something's gonna have to be done about that. I don't even know what that is, because it's like, I hope all the money gets they take that $100,000 and just say, no, we're not gonna take it as the government. We're gonna donate it towards Sunnybrook Laboratories and let them spend their money to try and fix this thing, right? And the public embarrassment factor is probably enough. Especially if CRA doesn't actually get involved in this. But as we've said, we've spent I don't know how long talking so far, and such a small part of it has actually been about sports. But that's the nature of
such a small part about what's happening right now.
Yes, it's sports. The nature of what's going on right about now, and so you got to be aware of that, and that's what we're talking about. But it's brutal because there's nothing to watch, really. You can only watch so much Netflix before you decide to just end it all, right? Like you can only stand not watching sports for so long.
I'm surprised the video game servers haven't gone yet.
Yeah. The video games are gonna go nuts. News networks ratings are gonna be off the charts. Amazon's probably there. Netflix is probably in the same boat. Disney probably less so, but still everybody's gonna go nuts. Certain
all those sort of things like
Crave. The certain internet websites will probably be used more than they usually are, for better or for worse. And, it's just going to be nuts, the amount of people that are going to be trying to find, ways to not be completely bored to death over the next... They're saying 2 to 3 weeks. I'm calling it a month or more. Hopefully it's less than that, but, I mean, from what I'm seeing... I don't claim to be a genius, but I just don't see it. Yeah, 2 is the minimum.
But I mean, hey, it can get solved just as fast as it got out.
Well,
in a week, we're saying like.
Well, I don't know
like
that.
Like a cure, like a vaccine, like you never know, like.
Well, you kind of know, because they're like everyone's saying, oh, it's probably gonna take a year at least, right? Like, yeah, if somebody happens to accidentally. Combine 2 chemical solvents together and be like, yo, this thing actually kills it and it tastes like chocolate milk. Let's get that shit out to the public. Yeah, that's possible, I guess.
No, I'm just saying we don't know.
Yeah, and you have to...
Chances are, yes, it's going to be way more than 2 weeks.
Yes.
But... No one really knows.
Yes, and thankfully, even though it doesn't really seem like it yet, it is supposed to start warming up and all that, and summertime's coming and spring's coming, and that should help.
Yeah, well, warm
Maybe a
weather
little bit.
should help.
But outside of that, everyone's still gonna be, all touchy, about the subject. Pun not intended there. And it's just gonna be a big thing for quite a while now. And I would not be shocked, like I've said, if certain sports leagues just cancel it. I wouldn't be shocked if the NBA and the NHL just say, this season's done. Go home, be safe, prepare for next season, and go from there. Like, I just wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know if they canceled the Masters. I think, or they bumped it. The whole golf scene, March Madness, all these, collegiate tournaments in the U.S. for basketball. It's all just, gone down the crapper real fast. And the reason why we're talking like it's, such bad news is because it is. Like, there's very little upside to this whole thing, right? Like,
No, there's no upside at all.
Yes, it's like...
I mean, it's not necessarily... It could be a lot worse. It could be a threat to everyone.
Yes, it could be a...
But...
I don't know. I mean, honestly, at this point, it may very well get there. But, I mean, who knows? Because we don't really actually know. They don't know, right? The leagues don't know. No one knows about anything,
it's all
really.
Speculation at this point.
Yes, and listen to the scientists. Wash your hands a lot. That should be common enough knowledge that everyone should do it.
You should be washing your hands when you come out from outside anyway.
Yes, you should. Yeah, you should be doing it no matter what the circumstances are on the planet, but now more so. The one thing we haven't mentioned is like the Olympic Games. Japan's, still trying to hold on to, we'll fix this, we'll get it right. The Olympics will go. No, it won't. I'm sorry, but it won't. I just have no faith that they'll be able to get it ready to go in time. And even, there'll be low turnouts, right? Because once these things start coming back, I have a feeling, people are going to be worried about, mass gatherings still.
Yeah,
even
if still going to be conscious.
right? And I know that's probably not the majority, but there's certainly a good amount of people that would act like that.
Well, I'm sure tons of people, if the NHL was still going on, would all go to games.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. Like the last spring training games, a lot of them were packed because it's the last baseball for a while. But, even with Sean Doolittle's wife on Twitter saying, I know games are still going on, but don't go at all. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this, but don't go. But everybody went. Like, there were packed games. It was ridiculously packed. And, in the midst of all this, as I'm trying to transition into this next little story, or whatever you want to call it, news bit, is with baseball being suspended indefinitely, pretty much so, all these players, major and minor league guys, are, not out of work because they're getting paid, but they're not playing. They don't have the ability to practice with teams. They don't have the ability really to interact.
You don't get paid in baseball until the season starts.
Well, they're all getting paid. They're getting paid. They've made that announcement saying if your contracts, you're getting paid.
They did?
Yeah. Minor leaguers, I think it's different.
You're not paid in the offseason.
Yes, I know. But they are saying, if you're gonna, it's all gonna work out really. Famous last words for minor league players. That's a different thing. I haven't read about that, but major leaguers.
Well, minor leaguers, that could be a disaster.
Yes, it could be a disaster.
You're trying to support a family on like a minor league deal and you're not being paid.
Yeah.
That's like working at a grocery store now.
Yes, and you're finding multiple jobs. But anyways, leave it up to Trevor Bauer to try and figure something out in all this. So Trevor Bauer has come up with the idea, California and Arizona somewhere, I think. To get, a pickup game going. Streamable, recorded pickup game. And he invited saying, hey, if you're major leaguer, minor leaguer, who cares? Just let me know. Come out and have some fun and, play these games. And I would assume there's probably going to be more than one game, just because everyone will probably enjoy it. And so outside of Trevor Bauer, who put the announcement up on Twitter saying, let me know. I want to know, if anybody's up for it. And obviously, there was overwhelming support from everybody to say, hey, go do it. It'll be fun. Fans might go out. You should stream it. You should broadcast it. I think it'll probably just end up on YouTube one way or another. So that'll be the one baseball game that we'll all be dying for whenever it happens. But just to run down, there's tons and tons of guys. There's way too many to go through because hundreds of guys on Twitter have come back at him saying, yeah, we'd love to play it, I'd love to do it. But just some of the, I don't know, not major guys, but, a bunch of them early on said, hey, we'll join. So this is just a bunch of them. So there's Bauer, obviously, who's organizing it. Rockies starting pitcher Tim Melville said he would go do it. Jerry Hurston Jr., who I believe is retired, he was an ex-utility man with the LA Dodgers back in the day. He said he'd come out and help organize it. Brandon Finnegan, a reliever on Cincinnati, said, hey, he'd do it. Mauricio Dubon in Milwaukee, Ian Kroll in Detroit, Corey Ray, a prospect from Milwaukee, Tommy Pham, that's probably the other really big name so far, said he'd do it. Cole Tucker, who we Blue Jays fans have seen a ton of in spring training.
Yeah. Pirate
shortstop prospect. Jacob Faria, an ex-Rays guy who got traded to Milwaukee. He would do it. Jordan Luplow, an outfielder. Bunch of prospects like Jahmai Jones, top 30 guy in LA. Nick Heath, top 30 guy in Kansas City. Alex Young, who performed really well with the Arizona Diamondbacks last year. Carlos Asuaje, who's a San Diego utility man. And then other prospects like Logan Shore, who's a relatively good, I want to say, LA Dodger guy. And Josh Rojas, who was in the big Zach Greinke deal between the D-backs and the Astros.
It sounds kind of cheesy, but like if a prospect goes out there and goes 4 for 4 with 4 home runs, it's gonna be known.
Yeah,
it's not like it's not like everyone's trying.
No, obviously, I don't expect anybody to go out there and try and strike people out. Yeah. I would expect it to be more of a fun-filled
hey, if a guy can get signed in a Colorado Rockies fun zone throwing thing.
Yes.
And make a little money. Someone can maybe make a little money here.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's a good idea. Everyone's supposed to be mic'd up. There's supposed to be GoPros. It's supposed to be a fun thing. Now, the only thing that might be stopping this is if Rob Manfred decides to get all pissy and says, nah, actually, you're not allowed to do that even though it's not league-oriented. Because the NHL said that. They said, no, in NHL, outside of NHL, you ain't skating with nobody. So... I would expect it probably would happen anyways because all these guys are dying to get out in the field, right? And it's in California. It's baseball country out there. There's so many places to do it. And, especially with the spring training facilities they have out there. So I think that should be fun. That'll be the, one baseball game, really.
Entertainment of the month.
Entertainment of the month. I don't even know when it's supposed to happen. I would imagine not too far off in distance. But yeah, it'd be great. ESPN, broadcaster Boog Sciambi said, he would want to be in for it. It'd be great if all these guys, reporters, came out and they made a big deal of it. It'd be so much fun to watch and be interesting because then we'd have something, or a little bit of something to talk about. So, outside of that, as we've said, there's just a lot of waiting around, a lot of guessing. Guessing is a dangerous thing.
It is. It's a very dangerous thing.
Guessing what, governments are going to do, what, restrictions there'll be, when leagues will come back. It's a tough scene. And obviously...
all up in the air.
It's all up in the air, yeah. So, if nobody would have listened this far into this podcast episode anyways, because given previous episode view counts, no one ever has. But, obviously next week, we're not in Florida, as we've said. So we're here doing this. Next week, I would imagine, out of pure boredom, we'll probably be back up here, even if... Whoopsie daisies. Even if nothing changes. I just tossed my pen across the room. That was a bad mistake. But anyways, so what news could there possibly be in the next week? I don't know.
No one knows at this point.
Yeah, we'll have to probably find something fun to fill the time with, right? Because whether there's sports news or not, we're going to be so desperate and bored that we're going to have to come up with something. Whether that's round 3 of trivia, I doubt it, because we'll probably want a little bit of a break from that and spread it out more. But, there's probably something. Or we just come up here and have like a completely,
we have our...
Romano.
We have our fantasy draft the next day.
Fantasy draft the next day. We can
talk about that.
Could talk about that. We'll have to get Romano in at some point.
Yeah.
That'll be a... that has to happen. Or not in, but on the phone. We'll let the administrator, if he ever, shows up again, try and deal with, plugging in a phone.
I can tackle that by myself.
Oh, buddy, both of us are so goddamn clueless when it comes to technology. It's ridiculous. Like, it's embarrassing at this point. We're both going off to university next year. We don't know how to plug in 2 mics. We can't get GarageBand to work. Like, it's
Well,
insane. It's a tough situation. It's a tough situation. But anyways, so I think this actually went pretty well. Not a whole lot to talk about, but I don't know how good or bad this will sound once I go home and actually listen to this thing.
We'll have to see.
We'll have to see. It'll be interesting. It'll be probably fun for the first couple minutes and then really, really disappointing the rest of the time. But yeah, hopefully, I don't know. We need our administrator back because this has been a gong show without him. We haven't been able to get anything done. And yeah, coronavirus my ass. How about you, get off your ass and walk up here and help us when we're struggling? That's what you're paid to do. But anyways, keeping it nice, ending it on a nice note, because we're all friendly and nice here for the most part. Yeah, that's about it for this one. Not that you've listened this far, but, if you have, I guess if we're all still here on this planet, you'll hear from us next week.